The Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association has questioned the timing and framing of British American Tobacco South Africa's decision to close its Heidelberg manufacturing facility by the end of 2026. The company has cited the impact of illicit cigarette trade as the reason behind its move that will result in job losses. It says the closure highlights a broader challenge facing many industries, including alcohol, pharmaceuticals and cosmetics. Meanwhile, the South African Tobacco Transformation Alliance spokesperson Francois van der Merwe joins us for more. Francois, thanks for your time. Now, let's look at the facts. BAT says the Heidelberg plant will close by the end of this year and shift to imports. What does this mean practically? When do retrenchments begin, and what happens in the months between now and shutdown?
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much. I think those are questions that BAT should respond to. But what I can respond, representing the whole of the value chain, which includes BAT, is that this is like death in the family. This is a shocking development, and it's an end of an era for a factory that's been in this country since the early 1900s. And you know, we need to sit up straight, and this needs to be a wake-up call, because we're not here to point fingers, but it's clear what the reasons are for this. It could have been prevented. It should have been prevented. We've warned about this, and we were hoping it's not going to happen, but it eventually happened. But we need to take serious note of this to prevent anything like this from happening again. And unfortunately, it's policy decisions and bad enforcement that led to this, which means it's a man-made problem. It's a South African-made problem. It's largely a government-made problem, and we need to take stock and see what led to this, and I can unpack those things so that this never, ever happens again, and that we can preserve what's still left of the legal value chain in tobacco.
Francois, I'd imagine that you'd have some insight. I'd also like to imagine that you've had a conversation with BAT, because we're talking about thousands of jobs that are at risk. We're talking about millions of rand that's going to be lost because you're part of that value chain. So from your understanding, just walk us through some of these challenges, and certainly why all of this, which you say has been talked about, could have been prevented.
Thank you, sir. All of these could have been prevented, you know, and this is now very unfortunate because the chickens have come home to roost. And when we raised these concerns over the past decade, and especially since COVID, we are accused of scaremongering, we are accused of exaggerating, we are accused of trying to influence policy in the wrong direction. But this is exactly what we want. And the three serious policy mistakes that government made was, firstly, the COVID ban. And when we warned during COVID that this is going to lead to job losses and losses in the value chain, we were told no, it's fear-mongering. What happened? Oxford Economics found that between 2022, the industry lost 35,000 jobs already, and SARS lost 72.2 billion in excise because consumption didn't decline. Even UCT said during COVID, all smokers continued using cigarettes. They just handed the entire market on a golden plate to illicit operators. We warned, nothing happened. The second policy mistake, serious mistake, is we've warned government over years about their excessive excise increases year on year. Every year, Treasury, we tell them, if you increase excises, you're going to get to a point of diminishing returns. Only the legal industry pays taxes. You increase the gap between legal and illegal products, and you increase illicit trade. No, we fear-mongering, we scare-mongering, we want to influence policy. That's exactly what happened. The last thing is the current tobacco bill, which is in Parliament, with extreme measures. Once again, only the legal industry will comply with that. Even SARS warned Parliament that this bill will exacerbate illicit trade. Nobody listens, and now we see what happens. So we have, of a mighty contributing industry in this country, we have less than 30% in the legal value chain. The rest is illegal, illicit. Taxes are not being paid. The legal industry has shrunk by 50%. Farmers, 50% of farmers have left the industry since 2020, and a company like BAT's volumes have declined by 50% since 2020, despite our warning. So these are policy mistakes. And then on top of that, bad enforcement by law enforcement agencies allowed the illegal industry to take over the market to the point where it's now in excess of 70%. So everybody loses, SARS loses, the legal value chain loses, the country loses. The only winners here are illegal companies who do not pay taxes and make billions of rands at the expense of the country as a whole.
You're obviously ventilating a lot of your frustrations, Francois, and understandably so. So let's talk a couple of things. One of those things is policy during COVID. Admittedly, many governments made several mistakes because COVID was new, right? No one had experienced COVID before, so there were certain decisions that were made. A lot of the studies that you're referring to are obviously said in hindsight, and we do say that hindsight obviously has allows us to critique, but we don't have the luxury of foresight at the time. And then also the other issue is balancing revenue and balancing jobs, revenue, and public health. Now, even if illicit trade is crushed, tobacco is still a harmful product, right? What does a sustainable future look like, in your view, where we protect jobs and the fiscus, but also reduce harm, prevent youth access, and strengthen regulation?
Absolutely spot on, sir. Let me just say that during COVID, we had the foresight as an industry, and we warned exactly what's going to happen because we know that prohibition does not work. It didn't work anywhere in the world. It didn't work in the history. So we had that foresight to say prohibition is not going to work. People are going to carry on buying liquor, buying cigarettes. I think South Africa was the only country in the world that banned tobacco. And exactly what we forecast at the time happened. The UCT in a study said that 90% plus of smokers carried on buying liquor. It just shifted from the legal industry completely to the illegal industry. And we've never, ever recovered from that. But your point, sir, that's important here is that here it's not about economics or health or this or that. There's place for everything of those if you have proper regulation, proper policies, and proper enforcement. Tobacco use is harmful to people. That is absolutely a fact. And that is why you need regulation in a balanced way so that everybody can comply with it, that there's sufficient enforcement to ensure that everybody complies with the regulation. But what we have at the moment is the converse. We have 70% of the market which don't pay taxes, and there's no enforcement on those. And that is why they put products on the market, cigarettes for 10 Rand and 15 Rand a pack, where the minimum collectible tax is more than 26 Rand a pack. That means it makes it worse for your health agenda, because cigarettes are so cheap now in the market that children can buy it, anybody can buy it. And in fact, consumption is on the increase. Whereas if government listens to us to have a proper and a balanced excise regime, if they have a proper regulatory framework, if there's proper enforcement, then all products in the market will be legal. It will be much more expensive. Taxes will be paid. Government will get the money so that they can spend it on health, and legal companies can fight it out there with their brands. The farmers can make a living. So it's not either health or the economy. It's all of it playing together in a society. And it's possible that because of bad enforcement, bad policy decisions, the coin has been flipped. Market is flooded with cheap products. Health agenda goes out the window. The fiscus loses. Farmers lose their livelihood. What's government going to say to 230 people in Heidelberg losing their livelihoods? You know, those are the things, and it's unnecessary. Could have been prevented, should have been prevented, if government and industry, legal industry, works together properly and have a regulatory and a tax and an excise regime that can work, that can be enforced, and that your enforcement agencies like SARS, the prosecuting authority, the police, are properly funded and properly equipped so that they can enforce the laws of the land. And then you'll have a win-win situation. You'll have reduction of consumption. Your health agenda will be achieved, and the fiscus will receive what is rightfully due to it.
Francois, a term that we often bandy around is the political will, right? So let's talk SARS and enforcement, right? If illicit trade is killing the legal industry, where is the system failing? Is it at the borders, ports of entry, local distribution, retailers, or is it corruption inside enforcement itself?
Well, so it's a very relevant question. We know under the previous president of the country, that law enforcement agencies were decimated in terms of the capacity. So the new commissioner, new ministers of finance had to rebuild, and it takes a long time. We called for political will. Now, the good news is we've heard the minister of finance in the midterm budget speech in October expressing some political will by saying illicit tobacco trade is bad for the country, the fiscus is losing, and he said that 3 licenses have been suspended. Now, that's a start. That shows political will. We've also called for extra resources for SARS. We know now that SARS is getting extra resources. We know that the capacity is a problem. We've made proposals, for example, like put CCTV cameras in all factories. Now, SARS started putting CCTV cameras in factories, and then a group of local manufacturers took SARS to court. So the question is, what do they have to hide? They don't want to be checked because they don't report their production. We've asked for officials to be placed in factories. We've asked for a minimum retail price in the market so that enforcement can be easier and cigarettes cannot be sold below a certain price. Those are all things, proposals that we've made, but we are not the enforcer. It's encouraging that there seems to be political will now, that SARS is starting to take action, but where's the NPA? Where's the police? There needs to be prosecutions. There needs to be a signal that if you operate in this country, you need to abide by the laws of this country. So there's hope. The decision of BAT is the horses have bolted. It's not going to be turned around. But let's preserve what is still there. Let's get the market rearranged so that the legal industry can get their rightful market share back. And BAT made a commitment that if illicit comes down, they will reinvest again in factory in South Africa. And that's all you want. That's a commitment that you want. But government is now the player that needs to come to the party and show that it's worth investing in factories in this country. Otherwise, if they don't tackle illicit trade, the rest of the legal industry, which is now less than 30%, will also disappear. The total market will be flooded with cheap illegal cigarettes, no fiscus income, no health agenda, no people will just smoke everywhere, and will be an embarrassment for the rest of the world in terms of tobacco control.
Francois, what do you want government to do specifically? So within a 30 to 90-day period, right? No general statements. List 3 urgent interventions you believe will disrupt the illicit economy fast. For example, it might be track and trace, targeted factory raids, factory monitoring, tax stamp enforcement. What would those things be?
Well, exactly. Track and trace is the solution, but to your point, track and trace is not an immediate solution. Track and trace can take 12, 24, 36 months to implement. But track and trace system is absolutely necessary. What's needed now that we know that SARS has got an extra resources, is they need to strengthen their capacity with, for example, highly qualified forensic auditors. The illicit operators are in South Africa. 80% of all cigarette companies are in South Africa, and we can just refer to the Ipsos study that's published every year. So SARS, these factories and companies are licensed by SARS. They know who they are registered by SARS, but they don't declare all their production. So forensic capabilities place for officials in factories and count the boxes that all the production is declared on a daily basis. But what happens is these companies produce 1,000 cigarettes, they declare only 100, and 900 goes out the back door without paying taxes, and that's why you have a mess in the market. So those are the steps that can be immediately taken. Appoint qualified people. Go to the companies, you know their names, you know where they are, you know who they are. Do the audits, and if they're not compliant, withdraw and suspend the licenses. And that can turn this industry on its head. Within a 6 months to 9 month period, illicit trade in tobacco can be dealt with, and it can flip around, come down from over 70% to less than 30%. And then everybody will be winners. It'll send a strong message that investment is okay in this country, and that illicit operations are not okay.
All right, I appreciate your time, Francois van der Merwe, South African Tobacco Transformation Alliance spokesperson, giving us some commentary on BAT, which is closing its plant by the end of year. And he says as many as 35,000 jobs, at least according to BAT, will be impacted. But he's argued that governments and SARS in particular need to do more to deal with the importation of illicit cigarettes.